Hey y'all, welcome to another edition of Craft Group Math. In this video, we're going to be talking about area of parallelograms. Specifically, we're going to go over the concept for how you actually get to the formula to find the area of a parallelogram. This is not a practice video, so if you want more of a practice style video, you're going to have to click on the link on the card above, which will take you to my video about just doing various practice problems about area of a rectangle. But if you want to understand where the formula comes from, this is the right place for you. So we're going to start out with this humble little rectangle here with a width of 8 and a length of 14 centimeters. Now you might remember that for rectangles, the area of a rectangle is equal to the rectangle's length times its width to get the area. So here, let's go ahead and calculate quickly this rectangle I have on the screen. Its length is 14 and its width is 8. So that would be 14 times 8. So my area there would be 112 centimeters squared for this rectangle. But you might be asking yourself, hey, so why are you talking about rectangles in a video about parallelograms? Well, first, I'm going to talk a little bit about sandwiches, and then I'm going to switch and talk about the parallelograms. So let's think. I'm going to draw, this is a poorly drawn picture of a piece of sandwich bread here. So imagine you're making yourself a sandwich, right? And then maybe, that's a really bad little curve there, so let's see if we can erase that. Well, erase the whole thing. Let's see. That's going to have to be good enough. Imagine you make yourself a sandwich, and you think, it would be really nice if this sandwich was sliced in half. So let's say that you slice your sandwich in half. You know, you slice the thing in half, right? So then instead of having one sandwich that's one piece, you have two pieces to your sandwich. But you're actually still eating the same amount of sandwich, right? Like everybody knows that if you cut the sandwich in half, it's not actually changing the amount of sandwich you're eating, it's just rearranging the sandwich. And rectangles and parallelograms are basically the same way. Let's say that I have a knife with my little rectangle here. My rectangle is going to be my sandwich. And if I cut it in half, let's see if that'll make a straight line. Boom. If I cut it in half like that, well, it's not really in half, is it? It's just into two pieces. I can take this little triangle like a piece of sandwich and I could sort of move it around. Or I can put it wherever I want. Well, if I put it over here, then suddenly, what shape have I made? I have taken my rectangle and I have cut it into a parallelogram. Let's see if I can put that back. Do you see that? Do you see how that works? So I haven't actually changed the area of the original rectangle at all. I've just cut a piece off of it and I moved it from here to there. But I still basically have the same size sandwich, if you will. So this is actually really, really helpful for me if I want to know, well, how do I find the area formula for a parallelogram, right? A equals what? How do I find the formula? Well, doesn't it have to be the same as a rectangle, basically? Because a parallelogram is the same shape as a rectangle, and the area, well, it's not the same shape, but it is the same size as the rectangle, but rearranged into a different format. Yeah, it must be, the formula must be really similar. So actually, it turns out that the only real difference here is the location of the width. So like when it was drawn as a rectangle, this 8 centimeters here, this 8 centimeters here was on the outside, and now the 8 centimeters is on the inside. So this line here is 8 centimeters, whereas that used to be out here on the outside. Now it's actually wound up on the inside. And that's not really a problem. We just have to remember that for a rectangle, we're going to use these outside measurements for our length and our width, but for a parallelogram, we have to use the base here and the height here to find the area. So for a parallelogram, we say that the area is equal to the base, which is basically equivalent to the length, times the height, which is basically equivalent to the width. But do you see how the formulas are very, very similar for parallelogram and rectangle? The only note that I want you to sort of pay attention to here, just so you don't get confused, I want to make a note for you that base and height always make a right angle together, because sometimes you might see tricky problems where it will label the height for you, and it will label the base for you, and it will also label one of these diagonal lines. Let's say this diagonal line is 15 centimeters. So if I had a problem where it labeled the base and the height and the diagonal line, that's testing your knowledge of what base and height are. So here's my little note for you. Base and height always make a 90-degree angle when they're together. So you're going to be looking for, where is my 90-degree angle, which you can see is made by that 8 and that 14. So then for this parallelogram, which I have transformed, so now it's no longer a rectangle, it's a parallelogram, I have the same dimensions, so my area is going to be 14 times 8, which would result in the same area, 112 centimeters squared. So this is my formula for area of a parallelogram that I can use for any parallelogram, keeping in mind that a parallelogram is basically just a rearranged rectangle. So here's one problem that we can do. I prepared for us. This is a parallelogram. It's not a rectangle. And it gives us a height of 7 and a length. I wrote length. It should be base, right? A base of 10 here. So this is the base of 10 centimeters. So using our area formula that we just came up with, area is equal to base times height. How do we solve this? Well, my base is 10, so area is equal to 10 for the base. And the height is 7, so 7 for the height. So my area here is 70 centimeters squared. That's the end of this video. I hope you found that helpful and maybe you understand a little bit better where the area formula for a parallelogram comes from. Tune in next time for more math. Math.